Welcome to A Perfect Touch. I'm Jeanette. Almost Heaven, West Virginia. John Denver got it right in the 1971 song. West Virginia is, in the words of my friend Terry, hauntingly beautiful. Denver's song is a symbol of West Virginia, and one you may be humming the rest of the day. You're welcome. And is one of 4 official state anthems, and in 2023 was selected by the Library of Congress for inclusion in the National Recording Registry. So what could a song have to do with a costume retreat for vintage and historical costumers? Let's go back in time, a long, long time. About 480 million years ago, just a blip in Earth's 4 billion year history. The collision of several continental plates formed a mountain range. The elevations were similar to our majestic Alps and scraggy Rocky Mountains, but have eroded naturally and softly to the range we have today. The mountain range was probably named from a 1528 exploration, discovering a Native American tribe whose name is transcribed as Appalachian or Appalachian. This is the 4th oldest surviving European place name in the United States. The Appalachian Mountains and the Great Appalachian Valley extend 2,000 miles. Their average peak is now 3,000 feet. The highest mountain, Mount Mitchell, is in my state of North Carolina. It is 6,684 feet and is the highest point in the United States east of the Mississippi River. Its Cherokee name is Atacula. As the colonists settled the eastern seaboard of North America, bringing their culture, customs, and children, expansion was hindered by this mountain range. Our history is full of trials and tragedies as the colonists in the east pushed west. In the early 19th century, historian, diplomat, and biographer Washington Irving proposed renaming the United States Appalachia, a testament to the impact the mountain range had on life in that time. Different portions of the Appalachians have different names. The portion I'm focusing on is the Allegheny Mountains, also called the Alleghenies. They stretch 500 miles from north central Pennsylvania to southwest Virginia and posed a significant barrier to land travel in the time of expansion. By 1740, the European American settlers had moved into what had been the hunting grounds of the Shawnee and Cherokee nations. The Native Americans called this land Kantaki. Much of that land is now the Monongahela National Forest, the Jefferson Forest, and the George Washington Forest. In 1778, Greenbrier County was formed and is within the National Radio Quiet Zone, something I will explain later. There are many named mountains in that area, and now we'll focus on the area at Kate's Mountain. Kate was a courageous woman who hid herself and her baby during early struggles between the colonists and the Native Americans over the land. Kate's Mountain was my view on the day I arrived to continue my research into planning a costumer's retreat in West Virginia. I've shared with you the multi-day costume events I've organized in the past, and wasn't planning to organize another until the day I learned of the Greenbrier. I had attended the Somewhere in Time event at the Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island in Michigan and watched a documentary about the Dorothy Draper Company and the interior design creations of both Dorothy Draper and her employee, Carlton Varney. The Greenbrier had been another project of Draper's. The Greenbrier in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia, is just 199 miles from my tiny farmhouse in North Carolina. How had I not heard of this place? But as it turns out, it is a well-kept secret, and I've only met one other person in the costuming community who has been there. But a group of costuming friends are interested in a retreat, so it's time for me to research. The research began with this beautifully written book by Dr. Robert Conti, historian of the Greenbrier. As the name White Sulphur Springs implies, a spring of sulfur water is the center, and also the beginning of the recorded history of this 11,000-acre property. Beginning in 1778, a local pioneer followed the Native American tradition of taking the waters for health benefits. In 1835, the spring house was built around the spring. The property was acquired by a prominent family, and they developed the large property as a resort, selling cottages, many of which stand today, to families who wanted to travel there in the summer, escaping the coastal heat. The President's Cottage, built in 1835, housed 28 presidents throughout the 19th century, and since 1932 has served as an historical museum. Around 1855, a hotel was built to accommodate the ever-increasing numbers of travelers from the coast, the north, and the south. The Grand Central Hotel became known as the White and later as the Old White. The hotel served as headquarters and hospital to both sides during the American Civil War. In 1910, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway purchased the property. The British-born American architect Frederick Julius Sterner designed a 250-room, 6-story building, which is the central wing of today's hotel. On September 25, 1913, what had been a summer establishment opened as a year-round resort named the Greenbrier after the neighboring county. The historic Old White Hotel structure was demolished in 1922, and in 1931, a new structure, crossing the 1913 structure like a T, nearly doubled the size of the hotel. Although the C&O Railroad was instrumental in the formation of the Greenbrier, they were most instrumental in forming this part of the United States as they continually built lines and found ways to transport and house travelers. Do you recognize Chessie, the sleeping kitten, from their 1930s campaign for their sleeper cars? On September 1, 1942, the United States Army purchased and converted the resort to a 2,000-bed hospital known as Ashford General Hospital. The hospital treated nearly 25,000 patients. It closed in June 1946, and the property sold back to the C&O Railroad. The C&O Railroad had introduced the game of golf at the Greenbrier in 1910, and through the years there have been incredible expansion throughout the beautiful property. But as you can well imagine, the Greenbrier interior had changed drastically during the years it was a hospital. After the Army's departure, the Greenbrier sat empty, and for 6 long months, until President Truman signed a bill allowing former owners first priority in purchasing surplus military property. In December 1946, the C&O Railroad again owned the Greenbrier, who immediately hired internationally known interior designer Dorothy Draper to completely restore and redecorate the hotel. From the history of the Greenbrier, quote, Dorothy Draper's first visit to White Sulphur Springs was an eerie experience, according to the notes of one who accompanied her on that soggy, gray day in December of 1946. As a limousine brought them from the train station to the Greenbrier, the hotel appeared almost ghost-like in the wispy veils of ground fog which shrouded its approaches. Under the columns of the north portico, Dorothy Draper and her assistants were met by a single employee who, with the aid of a flashlight, the electrical power was shut off, led them into the somber darkness of the entryway and up a vast, unfurnished lobby floor, where in silent emptiness a forest of naked columns stood at attention. The decorating team immediately began inspecting the hotel, starting on the top floor and working their way down. Within hours, having opened the heavy doors of every room and closet to see what might remain for her use, Mrs. Draper had chosen a comprehensive theme for her redecoration of the Greenbrier: romance and rhododendrons, a theme that combined her vision of White Sulphur's romantic past and her attraction to the rhododendron, West Virginia's state flower. The project took 2 years, and the Greenbrier's reopening on April 15, 1948, was an international social event. The Duke of Windsor and his wife, Wallis Simpson, who had spent her honeymoon with her first husband at the Greenbrier in 1916, were 2 of the many notable attendees. In the late 1950s, the United States government approached the Greenbrier for assistance in creating a secret emergency relocation center to house Congress in the aftermath of a nuclear holocaust, codename Project Greek Island. The concrete and fully functioning and supplied bunker could house 1,100 people for 60 days. It was built in conjunction with an above-ground addition to the hotel from 1959 to 1962. In 1992, a reporter with the Washington Post reported the story, and the bunker was decommissioned. The Greenbrier is on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places and the U.S. National Historic Landmark District. With all of that history and activity, it seems a perfect setting for a vintage and historical costumers retreat. I made reservations, put Tasha Puppy with our friend Karen at Fairwinds Pet Boarding, and headed to West Virginia on those curvy mountain roads. At the entrance gate, I received my guest pass and now have access to 11,000 acres of beauty and enjoyment. Leaving my bags with the bellman, I take the stairs to the lower lobby reception areas where I am offered my choice of champagne or water. Which do you think I took? Everywhere I turn, I'm in awe of the beauty of this hotel. Even the carpet at my elevator area is stunning. In the events I've organized in the past, I've been so fortunate to have a member of the venue staff working with me. Although I've had the pleasure of working with Emily since late 2022, she surprises me with a thoughtful gift waiting in my sitting room. Red velvet cookies and a journal from Dorothy Draper home. What could be more perfect? And my sitting room overlooks the north entrance gardens and riding ring. The sitting room is decorated with Dorothy Draper wallpaper and fabrics, and the details are so beautiful. The bedroom and bathroom are so beautifully appointed. Everything that you could want for a weekend. It was the end of a long day, and we had not made plans or reservations for dinner. There are so many choices for dining at the Greenbrier, but we decided to relax with a pizza in our beautiful sitting room. Even the pizza box and lining paper were detailed, and the Hawaiian pizza from the Forum was delicious. The Draper Cafe was at the top of my list for lunch the next day, and it did not disappoint. We're looking to have a Draper Day there, dressed in 40s and 50s for the event in 2024. The interior, the staff, and the food were all fabulous and fun. The majority of this day was spent with staff at the Greenbrier reviewing the spaces, restaurants, and activities available for the 2024 event. This full tour of the hotel gave me a chance to capture photos of the elegance of the areas, and I'll share those here in no particular order. Enjoy! The bunker tour was also on my list, so while cameras and phones were left in rooms or locked away, I did manage this view of the blast door inside the hotel. The door is well concealed by folding partitions when closed, and the original wallpaper was made to be uncomfortable to encourage wanderers to leave the area. The tour is extremely interesting and worth the 90 minutes. Although the day was packed, I had to make a quick visit to the Dorothy Draper Home store to pick up a book and some Carlton Varney designed socks. And who wouldn't love a selection of chocolate coins dedicated to the Greenbrier Springhouse? Although I could stay at the Greenbrier for days and never see it all, it is time to leave and head north to Cass, West Virginia. The history of this town goes back to 1901 and the West Virginia Pulp and Paper Company. The mountains provided the spruce and hemlock for the sawmill in Cass, which produced an estimated 1.25 billion board feet of lumber during its lifetime. The railroad and the locomotives specifically designed to climb the mountains, and the workers who lived in the company houses worked tirelessly until 1960, when the first and second growth timber was harvested out and the timber industry declined. While the sawmill is just a shell, the Shea locomotives have been restored, and the Cass Scenic Railroad State Park holds the depot, the company store, and the company houses. The Cass to Durban line only reopened a month ago after a devastating flood that took years to repair. This line has the longest route, with a turnaround in Durban, with lunch included and enclosed passenger cars. It seems like a trip that costumed attendees would enjoy, so I've reserved seats to check it out. I'm in Shea number 4 and a Western Maryland Railway coach, number 835, built by the Pullman Company in 1917. The Greenbrier Express is a 30-mile round trip from Cass to the mountain town of Durban and back. The tracks closely follow the meandering river, where abundant wildlife can be seen from your high-back plush seat in number 835. The Durban Depot is one of 4 places where a light lunch awaits all passengers, with time to stop in the local stores, and I just had to have a strawberry ice cream cone at Rail and Trail. Here I'm wearing my 1930s Katharine Hepburn trousers with suspenders, an Elsa Schiaparelli designed silk tie, and an incredible vest from a 1930s vintage pattern beautifully knit by my friend Maike of Engineering Knits on YouTube. If you follow Maike on her YouTube channel, Engineering Knits, you already know how talented she is, and not just knitting, so many textile arts, and I absolutely love her sewing companion. I'll share a link. Maike and I were in a YouTube group together, and I had shared that I was creating a vintage 1930s wardrobe and asked if there were any vintage knitters in the group. Maike came to my rescue with ideas and offered to knit this vest from a vintage pattern. I was thrilled. We discussed colors, and Maike sent samples which were designed to coordinate with trousers, jodhpurs, split skirt, and a fabulous tie I had found on Etsy. Maike created the most stunning vest. Sadly, I wasn't able to wear it for the intended event, but happily, I will be on that event later this year. But you have seen I just couldn't wait to wear it on the Cass to Durban steam train adventure. Thank you so much, Maike. You will be seeing this vest again. I love it. Other pieces I've made, which you catch a glimpse of here, the velveteen trousers from a Wearing History pattern, and the split skirt and parachute silk blouse from Lady Marlowe patterns, are part of the full 1930s wardrobe, which I'm slowly writing the blog posts and creating videos about. The brocade suspenders were found on Etsy, and I'm in love with them too. The day for the train adventure during the event is planned for 1900s and 1910s costume, the time when both the railroad and the Greenbrier were in full expansion mode. Since tomorrow's adventure is just minutes away, we have reserved a Cass Company house for the night, 224 Main Street. A 3-bedroom, 1-bath home with living room, dining room, fully furnished kitchen, and West Virginia coffee. A family in the early 20th century would be very much at home here, with many neighbors in similar homes. Although the Greenbrier site visit and the Cass Scenic Railroad experience were complete, there was one more adventure I wanted in the mountains of West Virginia, the Green Bank Observatory. It is just a 10-minute ride there, but be sure to have your directions written down, as it is in the National Radio Quiet Zone. No cell service, no internet, and the locals in Green Bank are not allowed microwave ovens. The transportation within the GBO is diesel-powered, as spark plugs interfere with reception. It was buzzing with excitement the day we were there, as the 15-year data collection results were released, confirming Einstein's 1915 prediction of gravitational waves. Quote, "Scientists hear ripples in the fabric of our universe," unquote, was the headline. It was an exciting day to take a bus tour and see the multiple dishes as well as the Green Bank telescope. As digital cameras were not allowed within the gates, the only photos I have were from an approved observation deck. Very much worth the time. Much faster going through that mountain than over. And now that we're home with an incredible few days behind us, and everyone is glad to be back together again. As I write this blog post and edit the video, I'm working with staff at the Greenbrier and the Cass Scenic Railroad for the 2024 event. Many of the group already interested in attending will be traveling quite a distance, and it's wonderful that the Greenbrier is easily accessible by train and plane as well as car. The event is scheduled to be over 3 days, with an additional early arrival day, and begin with the vintage eras for easy costuming and packing, and end with historical and a customer's choice day. Our evenings will be in the same eras as the day activities. There are some activities being arranged for all after a poll was taken by those interested, and time allowed for attendees to have their own personal adventures. I hope you enjoyed this little trip to Almost Heaven. Thank you for being here.